Have you ever taken the wrong exit and couldn't find your way back? Arizona's small towns hide something darker than desert heat. Tonight on Unheard Fears, we're diving into 4 disturbing true Arizona small-town horror stories. 4 people share what they encountered in places most travelers speed through without stopping. These stories are real, though names and details have been changed for privacy. Drop your location and what time you're watching in the comments below. Hit subscribe if you're ready for more unexplained encounters. Let's begin with a trucker who learned some roads don't exist on any map. Route 10 between Tucson and the New Mexico border is 168 miles of nothing. I've driven it maybe 300 times in the last 6 years, hauling freight for Werner. What happened at mile marker 336 last August, I still can't explain it, and I've stopped trying. August in southern Arizona hits different. We're talking 106, 108 degrees during the day, and the asphalt gets so hot you can smell it cooking. But that night, monsoon season was doing its thing. The sky had that sick green-black color it gets right before everything breaks loose, and the temperature had dropped from 106 to maybe 92 in 20 minutes flat. That's how you know it's coming. The desert doesn't cool down that fast unless there's serious weather moving in. I was driving my usual freight liner, hauling auto parts from a warehouse in Phoenix to a depot in Las Cruces. Nothing special. I knew this stretch like the back of my hand. My plan was simple. Fuel up at the pilot truck stop in Wilcox, grab whatever coffee they had left from the afternoon batch, make Deming by 4 in the morning. Wilcox is one of those towns with a population around 3,200, known for apples and an annual festival nobody outside Arizona has ever heard of. Blink and you miss it. But the truck stop has decent diesel prices, and the bathrooms are usually clean, so that's where every driver stops. I was running on time, maybe even 15 minutes ahead of schedule. The radio was playing some forgettable country station out of Tucson, and I was thinking about whether I needed to replace my fuel filter soon, because the engine was pulling a little rough on the grades. Then, at exactly 11:17 p.m., my GPS cut out. Just went dark. The screen didn't flicker or show an error message. It just died. At the same time, the radio went to pure static on every station. I turned the dial all the way across AM and FM, nothing but white noise and that crackling sound. I wasn't worried yet. Electronics do weird things in monsoons. The atmospheric pressure changes, the humidity spikes even though it hasn't rained yet, and signals get scrambled. I've had it happen before. I grabbed my phone to check the backup GPS app I keep for situations like this. No service. The little bars at the top showed nothing. I actually said out loud, "Fucking Verizon," because of course, the one time I need it, the network's down. Here's something most people don't know about monsoons in Arizona. They're not like regular thunderstorms. The National Weather Service calls them hayboobs when the dust walls roll in, and they can create winds over 60 miles per hour in seconds. The temperature drop I felt wasn't just weather. It was a microburst forming somewhere close. Professional drivers know you're supposed to pull over when visibility drops below a quarter mile, but I could still see the road fine. The lightning hadn't started yet. I kept going. That's when I saw the exit, mile marker 336, right where my GPS died. There was a ramp I'd never noticed. Before, no sign. Just pavement curving off to the right. My headlights caught something at the bottom. Looked like one of those big metal gas station signs from the 60s, the kind that are 2 stories tall. I checked my fuel gauge. Quarter tank. Wilcox was still 15 miles out, and I'd be cutting it close with a full load. Something in my head said, don't take that exit. But the practical part of me, the part that's been driving for 6 years without a single accident, said, fuel is fuel. I signaled, even though there wasn't another vehicle in sight, and took the ramp. The road curved down into darkness. No streetlights, no reflectors on the shoulder, nothing. Just my headlights cutting through that weird pre-storm air that feels thick and electric. Then I saw buildings. A whole town, maybe 12 structures total, all dark. The streetlights were those old sodium vapor ones that cast everything in orange and make shadows look wrong. No cars parked anywhere. No lights in windows. But there was a gas station right in the middle, and when my headlights hit the sign, I felt my stomach drop. It was a Chevron, but the prices were still listed in cents. 89.9 for regular. That hasn't been a thing since the 80s. I pulled up to the pumps. Everything was quiet except for the wind picking up, making that low whistling sound through the empty buildings. The pumps were ancient, the kind with analog numbers that flip mechanically when you're filling up. I tried my credit card in the reader. Nothing. The screen was cracked and dark. I looked at the station building. There was a light on in the back room, yellow and dim, but the front was locked up. I got out of the cab and walked to the door. Knocked. No answer. That's when I noticed the newspaper in the window display case. It was sun-faded to almost nothing, but I could make out the date, July 18th, 1987. The wind was really moving now. I could feel the temperature dropping even more. Had to be down in the 80s, and the first fat drops of rain started hitting the pavement. I was about to get back in the truck and just leave when I heard an engine. Another semi came rolling in from the opposite direction, an old Peterbilt covered in road dust, the kind they don't make anymore with the long nose and round headlights. The driver got out, didn't even look at me, just walked straight to the far pump and started filling up. I called over to him. "Hey, you know where we are?" He didn't turn around. Didn't acknowledge me at all, just kept pumping fuel like I wasn't there. I walked closer. "Hey man, I'm talking to you." Nothing. He finished. Hung up the nozzle, got back in his truck, and drove off down one of the side streets. That's when I noticed his truck had no license plate. Not expired, not missing. The mounting bracket was there, but no plate at all. The monsoon hit hard. Lightning cracked so close I felt it in my chest, and for maybe 2 seconds, the whole town lit up white and bright. In that flash, I saw faces in the windows of the buildings. A lot of faces. Men, women, all pressed against the glass looking out at me. When it went dark again, I ran. I didn't think, just moved. Got back to my truck, and that's when I saw the fuel pump was running. Diesel was flowing into my tank. I hadn't turned it on. I hadn't even touched it. The numbers were flipping, gallons climbing, but I never started the pump. I threw the truck in gear and peeled out. Didn't care about the nozzle still in the tank. Didn't care about anything except getting back to the interstate. But the road wouldn't let me leave. I took what looked like the on-ramp back up, and it curved around and dumped me right back at the gas station. I tried another street. Same thing. Every road looped back. The storm was hammering now, rain so thick I could barely see past the hood, but I kept trying. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Then my CB radio crackled to life. A woman's voice, calm and clear, like she was sitting. Right next to me said, "Weston, why did you come back?" I never told anyone my name. My name's not on my truck. It's not on my jacket. And the CB was off. I'd turned it off an hour ago because the chatter was annoying me. I saw headlights in my side mirror. Multiple vehicles, old models, 50s and 60s cars and trucks falling into a line behind me. They weren't speeding up, weren't trying to pass, just following, keeping pace. I floored it. The Freightliner's engine roared and I was doing 60 through these narrow streets in zero visibility, looking for any way out. Then I saw what looked like an on-ramp, different from the others, and I took it going way too fast. The truck bounced over something, the whole load shifted, and suddenly I was back on I-10. The rain stopped like someone turned off a faucet. My GPS blinked back on, showing my position at mile marker 338. The radio came back mid-song, some George Strait tune. I looked at my fuel gauge. Quarter tank. Exactly what I had before I took the exit. I pulled into the Pilot in Wilcox 20 minutes later, went inside, got coffee with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, and asked the cashier if there were any other gas stations between here and Tucson. She looked at me funny and said just the Chevron in Benson, 40 miles back. I asked if there were any old towns off the highway, abandoned places. She said no, nothing but desert and ranch land. I went back to my truck and checked my boots. They were covered in orange dirt, the kind that only comes from the high desert clay around Wilcox, the kind that wasn't on the pavement at the Pilot, the kind that shouldn't have been on my boots if I never left the interstate. I asked other drivers on the CB over the next few days, kept it casual. Any of you ever take a wrong exit around mile marker 336? Two guys went quiet and switched channels. One driver, older guy who's been running routes since before I was born, he came back with, "There's no exit at 336. Never has been. You need to get some sleep." But his voice had something in it, like he knew exactly what I was talking about and didn't want to say it out loud. I checked maps when I got home. Google Maps, trucking GPS databases, old paper atlases I found at a truck stop. No exit at mile marker 336. Not on current maps, not on maps from the 90s, not on maps from the 80s. It doesn't exist, but I've got the orange dirt in a plastic bag in my glove box. I've got the timeline that doesn't add up, missing 20 minutes I can't account for. And I've got a new fuel route. I gas up in Tucson now, take the long way through Lordsburg. Adds an extra hour to my drive. I don't care. Some roads aren't supposed to exist, and some exits take you places you're not meant to come back from. I did come back. I don't know why. But I'm not testing it again. Have you ever seen an exit or a road that disappeared the next time you looked for it? The Copper Queen Motel shut down in 2003 after the mine closed. I was hired to clean it out for demolition, 2 weeks, overnight shift because of the heat. Minimum wage, cash under the table. I lasted 4 nights. Look, I've worked a lot of garbage jobs. Fast food, hotel housekeeping, overnight stock at Walmart, you name it. When you're working 3 jobs to keep the lights on, you don't get picky. So when some guy from a Phoenix LLC called and said he needed someone to box up salvageable items from an abandoned motel in Bisbee, I said sure. $200 a night, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., bring my own supplies. He said the place had been empty since 2003. Squatters and vandals had trashed it, but the city wanted it cleared before they bulldozed it in November. Simple work. I've cleaned worse. Bisbee's one of those old Arizona mining towns built into the side of a mountain. Population maybe 5,000 now. Used to be 10 times that back when the Copper Queen mine was running. The whole town is Victorian houses stacked on top of each other, narrow streets that wind up the hills, and abandoned mine shafts everywhere. They say there's more tunnels under Bisbee than above it. The Copper Queen Motel sat on the edge of town. 2-story stucco building painted this faded turquoise color that probably looked nice in 1975. 30 rooms total, half of them with doors missing, graffiti on every wall, birds nesting in the eaves. The owner gave me a ring of keys, a flashlight that barely worked, and told me to bag anything worth selling, trash the rest. October in Bisbee stays hot. Even at 10 p.m. it was still 85 degrees, and the building held heat like an oven. No AC, obviously, no power except for one circuit the owner had turned on in the office. I started on the ground floor. Most rooms were exactly what you'd expect. Mattresses with mold growing through them, broken furniture, needles in the corners, empty bottles, the usual abandoned building trash. I found some stuff worth keeping. Old registries from the 70s and 80s, vintage matchbooks, a wedding ring stuck in a shower drain that might have been real gold. I worked methodically, one room at a time, left all the doors propped open for airflow. Here's something about old buildings in mining towns. The ground shifts. Bisbee's built on top of miles of mining tunnels, and as those tunnels settle and collapse, the surface moves. Buildings develop cracks, doors won't hang straight, floors slope at weird angles. It's why most of the old structures in Bisbee look tilted. The Copper Queen had that problem bad. Some door frames were off by 3 or 4 inches. You had to really shove to get doors open or closed. I'm telling you this because it matters later. First night went fine. Boring, hot, lonely work. The only weird thing I noticed was all the phones were off the hooks. Every single room had one of those old landline phones bolted to the nightstand, and every single one was off-the-hook receiver, dangling. I figured vandals did it, some dumb prank. I left them alone. Second night I came back, started on the second floor. That's when things got strange. Room 214's door was closed. I specifically remembered leaving all the doors open the night before for ventilation. The heat gets trapped otherwise. I figured maybe the wind blew it shut, even though there wasn't any wind. I unlocked it and went in. The bed was made, fresh sheets tucked in tight with hospital corners, no dust. There was a suitcase on the luggage rack. A real leather suitcase, good quality, not something vandals would leave behind. I opened it. Women's clothes inside neatly folded, styles that looked like the 80s. Shoulder pads, high-waisted jeans, that kind of thing. At the bottom was a wallet. I opened it. Arizona driver's license, expired in 1986. The photo showed a woman, maybe late 20s, dark hair. The name said Christie, Phoenix address, born 1955. I pocketed the license, figured I'd turn it in to the owner, see if he wanted to track down next of kin or something. I finished that room, moved on to the others. Around 1 in the morning, I was in the office sorting through paperwork when the phone rang. The landline. The phone line that had been disconnected for 16 years. I stared at it for maybe 5 rings before I picked up. Habit, I guess. You hear a phone, you answer it. A man's voice said, "Can I get room 214? I said nobody was staying there. The motel was closed. He said, "Tell Christy I'm coming." Then he hung up. The dial tone came on like normal, like it was a working line. I sat there for a minute trying to rationalize it. Maybe the phone company reconnected something by mistake. Maybe it was a wrong number, and the guy was confused. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. I went back to room 214. The door was closed again. I didn't close it. I knew I didn't close it. I opened it with the key. The room was empty, bed still made, suitcase still there. I checked the bathroom, the closet. Nothing. But I didn't go back in that room the rest of the night. Third night, I showed up at 10 and saw lights on in rooms 108 and 220. I didn't turn those lights on. There was only one working circuit, and it was in the office. I went up to investigate. Both rooms were empty when I checked, but I kept seeing movement in my peripheral vision. Shadows crossing in front of doorways, shapes moving past windows. I'd turn my head, and there'd be nothing there. Then I heard it. A vacuum cleaner running somewhere upstairs. That steady humming drone. I didn't have a vacuum. I didn't bring one because there was no power in most of the building, and the floors were concrete or trashed carpet that was getting ripped out anyway. I followed the sound. It moved. I'd walk toward one room, and the sound would shift to another hallway. I called out, "Hello? Someone here?" The vacuum shut off. Complete silence. Then I heard people moving around upstairs. Footsteps, multiple people, walking room to room. Doors opening and closing. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and yelled, "This is private property. I'm calling the police." Nobody answered. The sounds continued for maybe another minute, then stopped. I checked every room on the second floor. All empty. All exactly how I'd left them. Here's what I should tell you about Bisbee's history. During the mining boom, the Copper Queen mine ran 3 shifts 24 hours a day. Thousands of miners worked underground in brutal conditions. Cave-ins were common. Men died regularly, and the company kept it quiet because stopping production cost money. A lot of the old buildings in Bisbee, especially the cheap motels and boarding houses near the mine, they've got histories. People died in them. Murders, suicides, accidents. It's not supernatural, it's just statistics. Enough people pass through a place over enough years. Bad things happen. I knew all this. I'm not superstitious, but I also wasn't stupid. Fourth night, I almost didn't go. I needed the money, though. Rent was due. My car needed new brakes, and 4 nights of work meant $800 cash. I showed up, started working. Around midnight, I was in the hallway when a door slammed. room 214. I heard voices inside. A man and a woman arguing in muffled Spanish. I don't speak Spanish well, but I caught enough. He was angry. She was crying. Then I heard something crash, glass breaking, then silence. I tried the door. Locked from the inside. You can't lock these doors from the inside without being in the room. They're the old-style locks with the chain and the push-button deadbolt. I used my master key. The room was empty. But the mirror over the dresser was cracked, a spider web of fractures spreading from the center. And there was blood on the wall, fresh blood, dark red, still wet. I touched it. It was warm. I ran outside, called my sister, told her I was done. I was quitting. While I was on the phone, I looked up at the building. There was someone in the window of room 214, a woman in a white nightgown, standing still, looking down at me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I saw her mouth moving. She was saying something. I remembered the license I'd found. Christy, the woman from 1983. I got in my car and sat there until my sister talked me down, told me it was probably just stress, told me to go home and sleep. But I couldn't sleep. I went to the Bisbee Public Library when it opened the next morning. They've got old newspapers on microfilm, local history archives. I looked up October 1983, found it on the third roll, small article, back page. Woman found dead in the Copper Queen Motel, room 214. Blunt force trauma to the head. Name withheld pending notification of family. Husband questioned and released. Case remained unsolved. I kept digging, found a follow-up article from November. Victim identified as Christy, age 28, Phoenix resident. Husband Adrian provided alibi, charges never filed. Investigation went cold. I went back that fourth night because I'm an idiot and I needed to finish the job. I told myself it was stress, coincidence, my brain making patterns where there weren't any. I'd clean the office, grab my money, be done. I got there at 10, started packing boxes in the office. Around 1 a.m. I heard footsteps upstairs, multiple people walking around, doors opening and closing, one after another. Then the vacuum started again, that same steady hum. Then I heard a man's voice calling out, "Christy, Christy," over and over, getting louder, coming down the stairs. I looked at the stairwell. There was someone at the top. I couldn't see details, just a silhouette backlit by some light source that shouldn't exist because there was no power up there. The figure started walking down. Slow, deliberate steps. I grabbed my bag and ran, left everything. My supplies, my flashlight, the box of stuff I'd collected. Got in my car and drove home, shaking so hard I could barely hold the wheel. I called the contractor the next morning, told him I quit. He was pissed, said I'd signed a contract, said I owed him for the nights I didn't complete. I told him to sue me. He didn't. The motel was demolished in December 2019. I drove by once to make sure. They built a Dollar General on the lot. I went in to buy something, just to see. The cashier was new, young, didn't know the history. But I asked her how she liked working there. She said it was fine, except the phones were weird. They'd ring when they were unplugged. Store management couldn't figure it out. Always happened around 1 in the morning when she was doing inventory. She asked if I knew anything about the building's history. I lied and said no. I still have that driver's license in a drawer at home. Christy's face looking up from the photo, forever 28, forever stuck in 1983. Sometimes I think about her, whether she knew what was coming that night in room 214, whether she's still there, still trying to tell someone what happened, whether Adrian ever faced real consequences or just walked away clean. The case file is still open technically, but nobody's working it. Nobody cares about a dead woman from 40 years ago in a demolished motel. I don't work overnight jobs anymore. I don't care how good the money is. If you worked somewhere and found evidence of an unsolved case, would you report it or leave it alone? Posted to online forum, July 2024. Okay, I know this sounds insane, but I need to know if anyone else has heard about this. In 2012, I was living in Holbrook, Arizona, tiny town on Route 40, population like 5,000, and something happened that summer that nobody will talk about. I mean nobody, and I think I know why. So context, I was 17 in 2012, living with my parents because where else are you going to live in Holbrook? My dad worked for the railroad, been there 20 years. We'd been in that town my whole life. Holbrook's one of those Route 66 tourist trap places. You've got the Wigwam Motel where you sleep in concrete teepees, the Rock Shop with the giant dinosaurs out front, Petrified Forest National Park 20 miles east, dead quiet. Everyone knows everyone. Nothing ever happens there. Until that summer. It started around June 10th. Every radio in town started picking up the signal. Not all the time, it was random, usually late at night. It wasn't static. It was this low hum, with a pattern to it, almost like Morse code but wrong. The rhythm was off. Some people said it sounded like breathing. My dad thought it was interference from the railroad communications tower south of town. The Burlington Northern Santa Fe runs a dispatch center there, lots of radio equipment. But this signal was on AM and FM both. It didn't matter what station you tuned to, you'd get it. Sometimes for 30 seconds, sometimes for 5 minutes. Then it would cut out and normal programming would come back. Here's something most people don't know about radio interference. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, they take that stuff seriously. Licensed broadcasters have specific frequencies they're allowed to use, and if something's interfering, especially across multiple bands, that's a federal violation. Someone should have reported it. Someone should have investigated, but nobody did. Or if they did, nothing came of it. That should have been the first red flag. June 15th, A kid from my high school didn't come home. Lincoln. He was a senior. I was a junior. Didn't know him well, but everyone knew who he was. Quiet kid, kept to himself, had some problems at home. His truck was found on Route 77 heading toward Show Low, engine still running, driver's door wide open. No sign of him. They organized search parties, had volunteers walking the desert for 3 days. Nothing. Police treated it like a runaway at first because Lincoln had run away once before when he was 14. But his truck being left like that, engine on, door open, that didn't fit. You don't run away and leave your truck running in the middle of nowhere. By June 20th, the radio thing was happening during the day too. And it was changing. People started saying they could hear words in it. I thought they were crazy until I heard it myself. I was in my room doing homework, had the radio on some pop station out of Flagstaff, and the signal cut in. That hum, that pattern. But underneath it, there was definitely a voice. I couldn't make out what it was saying, the words were too distorted, but it was human. Or something trying to sound human. I recorded it on my phone. This was 2012. I had one of those flip phones with the terrible camera and the even worse voice recorder. But I got maybe 40 seconds of it before the signal cut out. I still have that phone. I still have the recording. June 22nd. A woman who worked the night shift at the Circle K on Navajo Boulevard vanished after her shift ended. Her car was still in the parking lot, keys in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat. She was supposed to get off at 6 in the morning. The next shift found her car at 6:15 when they showed up. She was gone. June 24th, an elderly couple from Snowflake driving through to Albuquerque. Their RV was found at the rest stop outside town. Doors were locked from the outside, like someone locked them in and took the keys, but there was nobody inside. Just their belongings, their dog, everything except them. The town was freaking out. 4 people missing in 10 days. For Holbrook, that's insane. We average maybe 1 serious crime a year. This wasn't normal. But here's what was weird. The police weren't acting right. No press conferences, no warnings to the public, no increased patrols. Just the standard, "we're investigating" line, and nothing else. It felt managed, controlled, like they were trying to keep people from panicking instead of actually solving anything. Someone posted on the local Facebook group about seeing lights near the old radio towers south of town. Those towers went up in the 90s. some kind of relay station for emergency services, but they'd been decommissioned for years. Chain link fence around them, no trespassing signs, the whole thing. But this person said they'd driven past at night and saw lights moving around the base of the towers. Not flashlights, something brighter. White and blue, pulsing. A bunch of us decided to check it out. Me, my friend Piper, and her boyfriend Enzo. 3 of us in Enzo's beat-up Ford Ranger driving out there around 11 p.m. on June 27th. The towers are maybe 6 miles south of town, off a dirt road that nobody uses. There's nothing out there, just desert, scrub brush, the occasional jackrabbit. We found the fence. It was cut. Someone had taken bolt cutters and opened a section big enough to walk through. The towers were humming. I don't mean the normal electrical hum you get from power lines. This was low, resonant. You could feel it in your chest. All 3 of us felt it immediately. Piper said her teeth hurt. Enzo got a headache within 30 seconds. I felt nauseous, that sick feeling you get before you throw up. We got maybe 50 feet from the base of the nearest tower before Piper's nose started bleeding. Just suddenly, blood pouring out of both nostrils. She'd never had a nosebleed in her life. We ran back to the truck. Enzo drove too fast on that dirt road and nearly flipped us. But none of us cared. We just wanted away from there. Piper's nosebleed stopped as soon as we hit the paved road. The headache had disappeared. But we all felt wrong for hours afterward. Shaky, disconnected. June 28th. They had a town hall meeting at the high school gym. Police chief, mayor, some guy in a suit that nobody recognized. Not local, not from Flagstaff, just some guy. They said the disappearances were unrelated. They said Lincoln probably ran away again, and the others were likely cases of people wandering off, getting disoriented. They said the radio signal was equipment malfunction, and the FCC was handling it. They told everyone to stay calm, stay in groups at night, report anything suspicious. The whole thing felt rehearsed, like they were reading from a script. And here's what really got me. Nobody asked questions. You had a room full of scared people whose neighbors were missing, and nobody challenged the official story. They just nodded and went home. It was wrong. July the 1st, the signal stopped. Just gone. Dead air, where it used to break through. Same day, they announced they'd found Lincoln. Alive. Wandering along Route 180 near Flagstaff, about 140 miles from where his truck was found. He was dehydrated, confused, couldn't remember the last 2 weeks. The official story was heat stroke, and dehydration caused memory loss. They found the Circle K woman 3 days later in Las Cruces, New Mexico, same condition. No memory, severe dehydration, couldn't explain how she got there. The elderly couple from Snowflake never turned up. Case went cold. Everyone just accepted it and moved on. Except, I couldn't move on. I talked to Lincoln once before his family moved away. They left Holbrook in August 2012. Wouldn't say why, just packed up and went to somewhere in Oregon. I saw him at a party, couple weeks before they left. He was different, jumpy, didn't make eye contact. I pulled him aside, asked him what really happened. He looked terrified, said he remembered some of it. Said he was driving and saw lights in his rearview mirror. Not headlights, something else. Then he was in a room with cement walls and that humming sound everywhere. The same sound from the towers. He said there were others there too. He couldn't see them clearly, but he knew they were there. He said, and I'm quoting him exactly, "They were studying us, and they're still here." Then his mom came over and dragged him away. I never saw him again. I left for college in 2013, Arizona State in Tempe. Never lived in Holbrook again. My parents moved to Prescott in 2015, said they were tired of the desert. I think they were tired of Holbrook specifically. But here's why I'm posting this now. Last month I was driving through New Mexico, taking Route 60 east towards Socorro, middle of nowhere. My car radio picked up that signal. Same hum, same pattern. I pulled over on the shoulder, hands shaking, and recorded it on my phone. This time, I've got a smartphone with a decent microphone. I compared it to the 2012 recording when I got home. Exact match. Same frequency, same rhythm. This was near Vaughn, New Mexico. Another small town, population maybe 400, right off a highway in the middle of nothing. I've tried finding other people who remember what happened in Holbrook that summer. Posted in local Facebook groups, messaged people I went to high school with, even called the Holbrook Police Department and asked about the cases. Most people say they don't remember. Some say it happened, but it was no big deal, just people getting lost. One guy, Rowan, he was a year ahead of me in school, he messaged me back. All he said was, "Let it go, for your own good." Then he blocked me. I've been researching, looking for patterns. Small towns, isolated locations, unexplained disappearances, radio interference. There's more, way more than there should be. Taos, New Mexico in 2008. Gerlach, Nevada in 2015. Marfa, Texas in 2017. All of them had similar reports. Radio, signals nobody could explain. People going missing and turning up days later with no memory. Official explanations that don't add up. And all of them near decommissioned radio towers or military installations. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's government, military, something else. But I know it's real. I know what I saw and heard. I know Lincoln was terrified, and he knew something he couldn't or wouldn't tell me. I know that signal is still out there, still broadcasting, and nobody's doing anything about it. So I'm asking, has anyone else experienced this? Unexplained radio signals in small towns, missing persons who come back with no memory, anything near old radio or communications towers. I need to know I'm not losing it. I need to know someone else has seen this pattern. Please, if you know anything, if you've heard anything, comment or message me. I've been carrying this for 12 years, and I can't let it go. Something's still out there. Something's still happening. And nobody's talking about it. Have you ever heard unexplained sounds on your radio that made you feel physically sick? I've been a ranger with the National Park Service for 14 years. Worked Yellowstone, Yosemite, Zion, seen bear attacks, rock slides, people doing stupid things that should have killed them. What I saw in the Chiricahua Mountains last March violated every training protocol and natural explanation I have. The official report says mountain lion. That's a lie, and everyone who was there knows it. Chiricahua National Monument is in southeastern Arizona, about 2 hours from Tucson, middle of nowhere. They call it the land of standing up rocks because of the volcanic formations. Thousands of these rock pillars and spires, some of them 8 stories tall, all stacked up in ways that look impossible. It's Apache territory historically. Cochise and Geronimo use these mountains as a stronghold because the terrain is brutal and easy to defend. 12,000 acres of wilderness, most of it backcountry that sees maybe a dozen visitors a month. I was assigned there in January 2024, transferred from Zion because I wanted something quieter. Joke's on me. March is shoulder season. Days are warm, mid-70s. Nights drop to the 30s. Not many tourists. Mostly serious hikers who know what they're doing. My job was routine backcountry patrols, checking primitive campsites, making sure nobody was doing anything stupid like camping too close to water sources or leaving food out for wildlife. It's boring work, mostly. I liked boring. Tuesday, March 12th, overcast, storm system coming up from Mexico. I was scheduled to check Echo Canyon Trail, about 8 miles of moderate hiking, 3 primitive campsites along the way. Standard patrol. Dispatch radioed me around 3 in the afternoon. Hikers had reported something wrong at one of the campsites. Wouldn't elaborate. Just said they were leaving the area and wouldn't go back. I asked what they meant by wrong. The dispatcher said the hikers seemed shaken up but wouldn't give details. Could be anything. Dead animal, creepy person, aggressive wildlife. I grabbed my pack, my radio, and my sidearm. Standard issue Glock 22 .40 caliber. I've only ever fired it once on duty, at a black bear that was too comfortable around humans in Yosemite. Didn't kill it, just scared it off. I've never had to shoot at a person. The hike in took about 90 minutes. Echo Canyon is beautiful in that stark desert way. Rock formations on both sides, narrow passages, sudden drop-offs. You have to watch your footing. The trail's well marked but rough. I found the campsite around 4:30. The light was already getting flat, that gray overcast light that makes everything look washed out. The tent was collapsed, not blown down by wind, but collapsed like someone had fallen on it. Backpacks were torn open, contents scattered, food wrappers everywhere, a sleeping bag half out of the tent. My first thought was, bear. But Arizona black bears don't usually come down this low until summer, when water sources dry up higher in the mountains. Here's what you need to know about bears. They're opportunistic feeders, and they'll absolutely trash a campsite for food, but they have patterns. They go for the food first, rip open coolers and food bags, scatter trash. They don't usually bother with tents unless there's food inside, and they leave claw marks, deep gouges in fabric, dirt, whatever they're tearing through. This tent was shredded, but not with claws. The tears were wrong. More like hands had grabbed the fabric and ripped. The backpacks, too. Zippers torn off, pockets yanked open. It looked human, but aggressive, frantic. I called out, standard protocol. Park Service, anyone need medical attention? No answer. I checked inside the tent. 2 sleeping bags, both unzipped from the inside, meaning whoever was sleeping had gotten out in a hurry. No blood. That was good. No blood meant probably no serious injury. But there was no sign of the hikers either. I started looking for tracks. Found them almost immediately. Barefoot prints leading away from the camp, heading up into the rocks instead of back toward the trail. The prints were human, sort of. The shape was right, 5 toes, heel, arch. But the size was wrong. The stride length was massive, maybe 7 feet between steps. An average adult male has a stride of about 2.5 feet. Someone running might hit 4 feet. 7 feet means either someone was taking huge leaping bounds, or something with much longer legs was walking. The toes were splayed too, spread wider than normal, like the weight distribution was different. I followed them for maybe 50 yards. They went up into the rock formations and just stopped. Not like the person climbed up, the prints just ended on flat rock. I radioed dispatch. Possible injured hiker. Tracks leading into difficult terrain, requesting backup. They said 2 rangers were 40 minutes out. Helicopter was on standby if needed. I waited. That's when I noticed the smell. It's hard to describe. Ammonia mixed with something rotten, but also metallic. Like blood, but sharper. It made my eyes water. The wind shifted, and it got stronger. I drew my sidearm. Kept it low, finger off the trigger. Called out again. Park Service. If you need medical attention, make yourself known. Nothing. But I heard something moving in the rocks above me. Not scrambling, not sliding. Deliberate movement. Calculated. I'm trained to handle wildlife encounters. You make yourself big. Make noise. Back away slowly. Don't run. Running triggers predator instinct in most animals. But this didn't feel like a wildlife encounter. This felt like I was being watched, studied. I kept my eyes on the rocks, scanning for movement. That's when I saw it. Maybe 30 yards up in the formations, partially behind a rock spire. Tall. My brain said 8 feet, but that might have been the angle. Bipedal, standing on 2 legs. But the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, hanging down past where knees should be. Head too large for the body, or shaped wrong. The light was bad, overcast and fading, but the skin looked gray-tan, smooth. No hair that I could see. It moved behind the rock before I could get a clear look. My hand was shaking. I keyed my radio, tried to keep my voice steady. Dispatch. I have visual on unknown subject. Appearance doesn't match any known wildlife, requesting immediate backup and air support. The dispatcher asked me to clarify. I said, "I don't know what I'm looking at. It's not a bear. It's not human. I need backup now." She said the Rangers were 20 minutes out. Helicopter was spinning up. 20 minutes is a long time when you're alone in the backcountry with something that shouldn't exist. I started backing toward the trail, keeping my weapon ready, eyes on the rocks. That's when I heard them. Multiple things moving. At least 3, maybe more, circling my position. They weren't trying to hide anymore. I could hear them clearly. Rocks shifting, gravel sliding. And sounds. Clicking sounds, sharp and rhythmic. Low vocalizations, not words, not animal sounds. Something in between. They were communicating. Every instinct I had said run. My training said maintain situational awareness. Back away slowly, don't turn your back. I split the difference. Backed up faster, weapon up, scanning. One of them came down from the rocks 20 feet ahead of me. Dropped down, landed on 2 legs, steady. I got 3 seconds of clear view. Humanoid, but not human. The face was flat, compressed. Eyes too large, reflective in the dim light like an animal's eyes, but positioned forward like a primate. The mouth was wrong, too wide, opened slightly, and I saw teeth. Too many teeth. Hands had fingers. I counted 6 on one hand, or the fingers were longer than they should be. It was making that sound, high-pitched, mechanical almost. Like speech, but processed through something that doesn't have human vocal cords. I fired twice. Center mass. Standard training. The sound echoed off the rocks. The thing jerked back but didn't fall. Didn't bleed. Just backed away into the rocks, moving fast. I ran. Didn't think, didn't maintain protocol, just ran. I made the trailhead as the helicopter searchlights swept across the canyon. The sound of the rotors was the best thing I'd ever heard. 3 other Rangers were there, all armed, all looking at me like I'd lost my mind. Ian was one of them, good Ranger. Worked Chiricahua for 5 years. He asked if I was hurt. I said no. He asked what happened. I said I didn't know. We went back at first light with 6 Rangers and a sheriff's deputy. Found the campsite. It was clean. Not cleaned up, just clean. No collapsed tent, no torn backpacks, no scattered gear. Nothing. Like it had never been disturbed. Ian looked at me. I insisted we go to where I fired my weapon. We found the brass casings from my Glock exactly where they should be. 2 spent rounds, but no blood. No body. No evidence of anything hit. But on the rock, face where the thing had been standing, there were marks. Deep gouges, 4 parallel lines, like something with claws had gripped the rock. The spacing was wrong. Too wide for a bear, too deep for a mountain lion. The hikers turned up in Wilcox around noon that same day. Dehydrated, confused, couldn't remember clearly what happened. Said they saw something at the campsite, something that scared them, and they ran. When pressed for details, they couldn't describe it. The investigating officer noted possible drug use, though no substances were found. Their story didn't match the timeline. They left the campsite around 2 p.m. according to their statement, but they didn't call it in until 3:30. Missing 90 minutes they couldn't account for. My official report documented everything. Exactly what I saw, where, when. It was classified within 24 hours. My supervisor called me in, said the report was being sealed for reasons above his clearance level. Said I couldn't discuss it with anyone. I asked why. He said those were the orders. I was offered a transfer to a desk position in Flagstaff. When I asked if it was optional, he said technically yes, but strongly recommended. I took it. I'm not stupid. 2 other Rangers who responded that night quit within 6 months. Ian put in for a transfer to Rocky Mountain National Park. Nobody talks about it. We all signed non-disclosure agreements, but I'm not using my real name here, so I don't care anymore. I've been at the desk job for 9 months now. I process permits, handle administrative work. Haven't been in the backcountry since March. I'm done with field work. I went back to Chiricahua once. Daytime. Stayed on the main tourist trails. Didn't go anywhere near Echo Canyon. I was looking at a visitor map in the parking lot when I noticed something. There are rock carvings in the monument, prehistoric petroglyphs left by indigenous peoples. I looked them up later in the archives, found photographs from a survey done in the 1960s, carvings near Echo Canyon that aren't on any current park maps. The images show tall figures, humanoid but with the proportions wrong. Arms too long, heads too large. The archaeologist who documented them noted they didn't match any known style of Apache or pre-Columbian art. Apache oral history mentions the Gay-En, mountain spirits. They're sacred, protective, but dangerous. Not evil, just not safe, not human. The stories say they live in the high places, the rocks and caves. They protect the land, but you don't seek them out. You show respect, and you leave them alone. The Chiricahua Apache knew these mountains better than anyone. If they said don't go certain places, there was probably a good reason. The area around Echo Canyon is now permanently closed to public access. The official reason is ecological restoration and erosion control. There are signs up, fences, the whole thing, but I've seen the updated patrol schedules. Rangers are specifically instructed not to enter that area alone and only during daylight. That's not erosion control protocol. That's safety protocol for dangerous wildlife. Except the documentation doesn't specify what kind of wildlife. I don't know what I saw. My training says it's impossible. Biology says it's impossible. But I know what I saw, and I know I'm not the only one. The Park Service has been around for over 100 years, covering millions of acres of wilderness. There are reports going back decades, buried in archives, sealed files. Rangers who saw things that didn't match any known species. Hikers who disappeared in areas they knew well. Campsite disturbances that didn't match any predator pattern. It's all there if you know where to look. Make of that what you will. I'm not going back to find out. If you encountered something in the wilderness that science says doesn't exist, would you report it knowing no one would believe you? That's all for tonight on Unheard Fears. These stories come from real people who experience things they can't explain. If you have your own unexplained encounter, share it in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Stay safe out there, and remember, some places are wild for a reason. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind questioning.